Mm. Dayal Gauranga Prabhu, please unmute yourself. Okay.
I was having a private party with Krishna. Sorry.
Okay.
Sachinandan Swami's in town, and he recently said that um, he loves to dance for Krishna, but he doesn't dance so much in public anymore because everyone's got phones and everyone takes videos, and then everything becomes a movie on the internet. And so he now just likes to dance at his ashram in Germany, even when his disciples and servants aren't around, just in his room alone, because it's just for Krishna. So I wish that was my meditation, but actually I just forgot to unmute myself.
Yeah. That's the litmus test of our bhakti. What do we do when no one's watching? Dance
Yeah.
for Krishna or do nonsense?
They say dance like nobody's watching is a common saying. Dance like nobody's watching, but we say dance like Krishna's watching.
Yeah, dance like Krishna's watching. Dial playing. Okay, chant it. Hare Krishna.
Jai Shri Radha Madhava ki jai. Jai Radha Madhava. Jaya Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava. Jaya Kunja Bihari. Jaya Gopi Channavalabha. Jaya Girivardhari. Jaya Gopi Channavalabha. Jaya Girivardhari. Jaya Jashodanandana. Jaya Braja Janaranjana. Jaya Jashodanandana. Jaya Braja Janaranjana. Jaya Jamuna Tiravanachari. Jaya Kunja Bihari. Jaya Jamuna Tiravanachari. Jaya Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava. Jaya Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava. Jaya Kunja Bihari. Jaya Prabhupada. 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Nitai Gaura. Haribol. 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 Nitai Gaura. Haribol. Nitai Gaura. Haribol. 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 Nitai Gaura. Haribol. Jai Shri Radha Madhava ki jai, Shri Radha Mulidan ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrinda ki jai. Nitai Gaur Premanandi Hari Hari Bol. Hare Krishna Hare Krishna. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Jena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Mukam Karoti Vachalam Bhangam Langayate Girim Yakripatamaham Vande Sri Guru Dinatarinam. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Thank you all so much for being here. to read and discuss Srimad Bhagavatam. All of you are amazing, dedicated, sincere souls, applying yourself to the path of bhakti. Rupa Goswami in the Upadeshamrita, Srila Prabhupada translates as the nectar of instruction, describes in the 7th verse that the process of bhakti works gradually in the heart of the devotee who consistently applies themselves to the hearing and chanting of Krishna's holy name and his pastimes and glories and activities. And so when we come together for Srimad Bhagavatam steadily, and we perform our sadhana steadily, then it's like a balm on the heart. Like there's a burn. When there's a burn on the heart, you just kind of you put some soothing aloe and balm on it, and just gradually starts to, doesn't immediately completely go away, but it gradually takes its time to heal and to be relieved of that burning sensation. And similarly, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu uses a similar example: Mahadavagni Nirvapanam. Bhava Mahadavagni Nirvapanam. In the Shikshastakam, the great forest fire of material life gets extinguished when we come together and hear and chant about Krishna. And so we come together. Gauranga, who also gave Bhagavat Shravana this past Sunday, and he said the most powerful thing in the universe is hope. And as devotees, we come together to give ourselves hope, and to exchange hope, and to renew hope, and to invigorate ourselves in the hope of our spiritual practices. Because when we do it alone, the world is filled with very little hope. And when we're just left with our mind, we're left with very little hope. And so when we come together in association of devotees, we're just here to just get a little droplet of hope. And so I pray that somehow, somewhere, in the pages of Srimad Bhagavatam, through the grace of Vyasadeva and Srila Prabhupada and our acharyas, that a drop of hope can come through the association of the devotees that we're taking Sangha with. And we are reading today from Srimad Bhagavatam, the 10th canto, chapter 25, verses 14 through 16. So chapter 25, we're still in Krishna lifts Govardhan Hill. Krishna lifts Govardhan Hill, verses 14 and 16. Okay, let's take a look. Chapter 25, verses 14 and 16. Okay, let's go ahead and share our screen and take a look. 10:25, 14 through 16. Okay. Shilavarshita vatena hanyamanam achetanam nirikshya bhagavan mene kupitendra kritam hari. Seeing the inhabitants of his Gokul rendered practically unconscious by the onslaught of hail and blasting wind, the Supreme Lord understood that this work was of angry Indra. Purport. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains that the severe distress Indra apparently inflicted upon the residents of Vrindavan was an arrangement made by Sri Krishna's pastime potency to enhance the loving dealings between the residents and the Lord. The Acharya gives the analogy that for a hungry person, the pain of hunger increases the happiness he feels when he finally eats excellent food, and thus hunger can be said to enhance the pleasure of eating. Similarly, the residents of Vrindavan, although not experiencing ordinary material anxiety, felt a type of distress at the activities of Indra, and thus intensified their meditation on Krishna. When the Lord finally acted, the result was wonderful. Beautiful, beautiful. So many beautiful things taking place in this verse. First of all, it says that seeing the inhabitants of his Gokula rendered practically unconscious by the onslaught of hail and blasting the wind, the Supreme Lord understood that this was the work of angry Indra. First thing we hear is that Krishna is seeing the inhabitants of Gokula. And I think that's one of the first questions that we ask ourselves: is Krishna see me? Is Krishna aware of what's going on in my life? Has Krishna forgotten me? Anybody ever wondered that question? Has Krishna forgotten me? Has Krishna overlooked me? Do I still matter to Krishna? Is Krishna really paying attention to what's going on in my life? Is Krishna negligent? Is he aloof? And so what we see here is that Krishna is extraordinarily aware, and he's seeing the inhabitants of his Gokula. Translation of the word here is his Gokula. You know what I mean? That he takes ownership. He takes ownership and he hasn't forgotten. Krishna mentions in Bhagavad Gita, Mamaya Vangsam Jiva Loke Jiva Bhuta Sanatana, that the living entities of this material world are his eternal parts and parcels, that they belong to him, that every living being is eternally connected to Krishna. And Krishna never forgets that. We may forget that, but Krishna never forgets that. We forget Krishna, but Krishna never, ever forgets us. And as devotees, we're simply here to remind ourselves of that fact that Krishna never forgets me. And we've discussed in previous classes that Krishna is Suhridam Sarvadehinam, that I'm not only eternally connected to Krishna, like a parent that sometimes you wish you weren't connected to. Sometimes people have parents, I wish you weren't my dad. I wish you weren't. You know, but that Krishna is actually my well-wishing friend. It's not just some happenstance prison sentence that we're just happy to be connected to Krishna eternally, but just for no good reason. But Krishna is our eternal well-wishing friend. That he's the Lord of everything, he's the master of all sacrifices, and he's Suhridam Sarvadehinam, he says in Bhagavad Gita. So Krishna is our well-wishing friend. So he sees us and he feels compassion for us. And if you ever doubt that or wonder about that, think about where you are right now. Krishna has appeared in the form of Srimad Bhagavatam. Krishna has appeared in the form of Radha Muralidhar here in Manhattan, Radha Govinda Dev in Brooklyn Temple, deities all over the world, in the form of wisdom of the sages that are sharing Srimad Bhagavatam every day on a daily basis, in the form of your Shiksha Gurus and your Diksha Gurus, and in the form of the holy name. So Krishna is there. Krishna is there. But the question is whether or not we remember Krishna and who Krishna is. Sometimes we remember Krishna, but we don't actually remember who Krishna is. We have a false conception of who Krishna is. And so reading Srimad Bhagavatam reminds us of actually who is Krishna. So Krishna sees us. He's aware of what's happening in our lives. And he is our well-wishing friend. He considers us his. He considers us his very own. And when he sees them rendered practically unconscious by the onslaught of hail and blasting wind, when he sees the devotee in a completely helpless state, he becomes impelled to extend his hand towards them. He becomes impelled to extend his hand towards them. And so Queen Kunti makes this prayer. Where does Queen Kunti make this prayer? Janmaishwarya Shutashri Bir. That the Lord is easily approachable, but only by those who are materially exhausted. And so when we wonder why things are happening to us in our life, materialist way of thinking is, why is everything going wrong? Why don't things work out? Why doesn't just a little bit of something go my way? And shifting that consciousness towards my only goal is to become completely dependent upon Krishna Sri Bhagavan. And that this is an opportunity for me to let go of that little bit of hope in the material world that I've been holding on to, that there's shelter anywhere other than Krishna. The price of Krishna Bhakti, pure Krishna Bhakti, as Rupa Goswami defines it in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Anyabhilashita Shunyam Jnana Karmajanavartam Anukulyena Krishnanu Shilanam Bhakti Uttamam. That it's Anyabhilashita Shunyam, that it's devoid of any other ulterior motive. Jnana Karmajanavartam, it's not covered by jnana or karma or any other process. Anukuyena Krishnanu. It's performed actively in a favorable mood of wanting to please Krishna. That is pure bhakti. So if this, I accept that I'm in the self-corrective laboratory of spiritual life called the material world. And everything that's taking place is Krishna's personal gift to me to let go of the false conception that anything in this world is going to be my shelter. Because it's a false shelter. It just doesn't have the capacity. And that's the nature of illusion. I think that this is going to bring me what I want, but it's not. And we're caught up in a lifetime after a lifetime, day after day, in this conception, thinking that this is what I'm looking for. This is what I need. But it's not what I need. And so Krishna is gently, kindly, mercifully reciprocating with our prayer to come closer to him. And so it doesn't take a lot. It just requires everything that we have, which is holding us back. And so Krishna is looking to make us completely, utterly helpless. And when we read the stories of the residents of Vrindavan, when we read the stories of the Bhagavatam itself, what do we find again and again and again and again? We find people, sometimes ordinary or extraordinarily materially engrossed people, put into a condition of extraordinary helplessness. And what makes them a great devotee is the choice they made in that helpless state to turn towards Krishna's loving shelter. In Gajendra, who was the king of the jungle, king of the elephants, had the material world at his fingertips, or whatever fingertips elephants have. I don't exactly know the correct biological term for the fingertips of an elephant, but at his, elephants, they don't have paws, they don't have feet, it's just feet. Material world at the tip of his feet, tip of his trunk. Hooves. Elephants have hooves. Anyways, it was right there for him at the tip of his physical extremities. And he was placed into an extraordinarily helpless state. And it wasn't that, oh my God, I immediately realized he wrestled for centuries. He wrestled with a crocodile until he finally came to the point that sometimes we wrestle with the material world. And Krishna is patient. Krishna never, ever says, you know what? I gave you enough time and I'm moving on. Krishna never gets to the place where he says, I've given you enough. I've waited long enough. I'm moving on. Krishna is extraordinarily patient. And so Radhika Rememberable gave a really beautiful class a little while ago, a series about forgiveness. And he spoke how when a devotee has the right intention, but the wrong action, he accepts the intention. And we get stories of Vidura and his wife who had intention to serve Krishna, but they gave him the banana peel and Krishna ate the banana peel. Or the story of Sudama Brahman who came and he just offered a very little tiny piece of chipped rice for Krishna. And he accepted that and was so grateful and reciprocated with him so extraordinarily. And the stories of Shabri from Ram Leela, who was biting the fruits and tasting which one was sweet and which one was sour and giving Ram the ones that were sweet, even though they were half eaten. And Lakshman was so offended and said, you can't do this. And Ram said, don't stop her. This is the most sweet, beautiful offering. That even if the action was somewhat incomplete in its externalities, Krishna accepts the intention. And he said there's even times when the intention is wrong, but the action is right. And Krishna accepts the action. Most famously in the case of Putana. Her intention was to kill Krishna and to destroy Vrindavan, but her action was to serve Krishna in a loving capacity as a mother. So he granted her the eternal form of his mother in Vrindavan. And so there are cases when the action is wrong, but the intention is right. Krishna sees the intention. When the intention is wrong, but the action is right, Krishna sees the action. And he appreciates that service. And he says, when the action is wrong and the intention is wrong, then Krishna patiently waits for us, however long we need to be. And that's when we hear Suhrida Sarva Dehinam, that Krishna is Suhrida, means that they're in the heart. And that's how Krishna accompanies us lifetime after lifetime after lifetime. Krishna accompanies us in the heart. And the devotee, the hope that the devotee carries is that Krishna has never abandoned me. Krishna has never abandoned me, but yet I've turned my back on Krishna. How have I turned my back on Krishna? Because I'm still holding on to the faith that the things in this material world are what will give me relief. That the things other than Krishna are what I'm looking for shelter to relieve the burning sensation of my anger or my anxiety or my fear or my whatever it might be that I'm holding on to in the material world that's burning up my heart inside. And so you have the story of Gajendra. You have the story of Ambarish Maharaj, who he didn't have the power to combat the Sudarshan Chakra thrown at him by Durvasa Muni. But in that helpless state, Vishnu immediately stepped in. The Durvasa Muni didn't throw the Sudarshan Chakra. Durvasa Muni threw the curse and took a hair and threw it and sent a demon. And Vishnu responded with the Sudarshan Chakra. And of course, when we get to the 10th canto, Prahlad Maharaj, completely helpless. So sometimes it's great devotees who are already great devotees, like Ambarish Maharaj and Prahlad Maharaj. And sometimes it's people who were materially engrossed, like Gajendra. But all of it bringing to this place of helplessness towards Krishna. When we get to the 10th canto of Bhagavatam, that's all we see again and again and again and again, is the devotees of Vrindavan made completely helpless and showing us the example so that their devotion can be increased and intensified. Because Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, it's an ever-expanding ocean. And so Krishna deepens that love by giving us situations for us to cry out more loudly for Krishna. We can cry for Krishna in a very deep state. So seeing the inhabitants of his Gokula, so Krishna is seeing, he's aware of the devotees in their state. Of his Gokula means that he accepts that you are mine and I'm never leaving you. Rendered practically unconscious, meaning that they are helpless by the onslaught of hail and blasting wind. We all have our version of hail and blasting wind in our life. The Supreme Lord Hari, who is the knower of everything, understood this was the work of angry Indra. And the commentary explains, gives us the insight of Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur that the severe distress Indra apparently afflicted upon the residents. So the verse is saying that this is the work of Indra, but Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is saying actually it was arranged by Krishna. It was inflicted upon the residents of Vrindavan. It was an arrangement made by Sri Krishna's pastime potency. Why? To enhance the loving dealings between the residents and the Lord. Krishna is pulling me closer. Krishna is not rejecting me. Krishna is not punishing me. Krishna is not forsaking me. Krishna is pulling me closer. Krishna is pulling me closer. The story of Dhruva Maharaj, how painful. He didn't immediately turn towards Krishna. Or he did turn towards Krishna, but in the effort to get something materially in return, because his mother sent him and said, the sages go look and they look for Vishnu. He'll give you what you want. And it was in that endeavor that he realized that actually all I really want is Krishna. So the Acharya gives the analogy that for a hungry person, the pain of hunger increases the happiness they feel when they finally eat excellent food. And thus hunger can be said to enhance the pleasure of eating. Where is the pleasure of eating without the feeling of hunger? And so Krishna sometimes is making us hungry. And we may think, I'm hungry. I'm ready. I'm hungry enough, Krishna. You can show up anytime now. I am ready to go. Table for two, please. But Krishna's not only making us hungry, but Krishna's trying to instill with us that actually, are you hungry specifically for Krishna? Because we become hungry, but then we're like, I'm looking for relief anywhere I can find it. Oh, Krishna's like, oh, I'm just one of your options. But what is the you want to take it all the way to the end? The Sanskrit of the Shikshastakam, 8th verse. Ashlishya
Ashlish
Padar. Yeah, please go ahead, Prabhu.
Ashlisya va padaratam pinastumam adarshanan marmahatam karotu va yatha tatha va vidadhatu lampatu matprananathastu sa eva na paraha.
Mat prananatas. There is no other life than my dear Krishna. I know no one but Krishna as my Lord. And he shall remain so even if he handles me roughly by his embrace or makes me brokenhearted by not being present before me. He is completely free to do anything and everything, for he is always my worshipful Lord unconditionally. So this is the thesis of the love of the devotees of Vrindavan, that mood. That I'm not only hungry, and sure, if Krishna comes around, great. Something else comes around, sure. I'm just hungry, whatever it is. I don't care what kind of food it is. I'm hungry. That's not what Krishna's trying. Krishna's bringing us to the point, I'm hungry, and Krishna, I don't care how long I need to wait. I don't care what happens in the meantime. I only will be satisfied by your loving service. The exclusivity of a devotee's love for Krishna is what Krishna is bringing us. And so, the residents of Vrindavan, although not experiencing ordinary material anxiety, felt a type of distress at the activities of Indra and thus intensified their meditation on Krishna. When the Lord finally acted, the result was wonderful. So this is why we read Bhagavatam, and this is why we get the hope of the devotees. Gajendra struggled for centuries, for years, with the crocodile. Dhruva Maharaj meditated deeply in the forest, performed austerities. The residents of Vrindavan constantly being harassed and attacked by demons. But whatever the time frame is, when we turn towards Krishna, Krishna will reciprocate with us. It's just not always on our timetable. And we can take the opportunity, and rather than become bitter and resentful and hopeless and frustrated, we can just think, just let my love deepen. Let my surrender deepen. Let my tenacity for taking shelter in the material world decrease. And let me simply accept that Krishna is my only shelter. Mat prananatas tusa eva napara. There's no other shelter than Krishna, my Lord. There's no other life force within me. Okay, we have 2 more verses. I don't know if there's purports to these verses. No, there's not. We want to read these 2 verses and then we'll pause. Apartyat balam varsham ativatam shilamayam swayage vihate smabhir indro nashaya varshati. Krishna said to himself, because we have stopped his sacrifice, Indra has caused this unusually fierce, unreasonable rain, together with terrible winds and hail. Basically kind of throwing a little tantrum. We all throw our tantrums when Krishna takes away what we think is ours in the material world. Is there anything that you think you're due in the material world? Anybody ever feel entitled to anything that they think is theirs? And so what we also find is we don't just get the example of great devotees in Bhagavatam, we also get the juxtaposition between material and spiritual consciousness. That when something is taken away from the residents of Vrindavan, they simply turn towards Krishna and they think, how can I take deeper shelter? When something is taken away from somebody who's infected with a materialistic mindset, they become resentful and throw a temper tantrum. How dare you take from me what was mine? How dare you take from me what is rightfully mine? The offerings of sacrifice, the praise, the recognition, that all belongs to me. And when that gets taken away, we have the opportunity to throw a temper tantrum and get resentful and demand that it be returned to us. We have the opportunity to soften our grip of possessiveness and realize this was never mine to begin with. It all belongs to Krishna. And if we think like that, at the end of the day, everything is an offering to Krishna, not an offering to me. And so whether I'm making that offering or somebody else is making that offering, we're one collective, united team. Therefore, somebody else's success in spiritual life is a beautiful thing. Why? Because they're becoming more qualified to serve Krishna. And it's not about me, but it's about loving and serving Krishna. We want to meditate on that mindset so that we can eventually gradually make our way towards there. Next verse. We'll pause. Tatra pratividhim samyag atma yogena sadhaye lokesha maninam maudyad dhanishe srimadam tama. By my mystic power, I will completely counteract this disturbance caused by Indra. Demigods like Indra are proud of their opulence, and out of foolishness, they falsely consider themselves the Lord of the universe. I will now destroy such ignorance. Dhanishe Shri Madam Tama. I shall now defeat their pride and ignorance. That's a meditation, isn't it? That Krishna simply, when something's not going our way, when a false conception of ourselves is being grinded into the dirt, we can just say, I shall now defeat such ignorance. And Krishna says as much in the Gita. It's beautiful. Krishna says to Arjuna to declare boldly that his devotee will never perish. Krishna mentions that if one offers him, the sequence of verses in the Bhagavad Gita is very beautiful. That near the end of the 9th chapter, in verse 26, Krishna mentions that if one offers me with love and devotion a leaf, a flower, fruit, or water, I will accept it. Let's take a look at these verses. It's really beautiful. And then the sequence that follows in the 10th chapter, the way that Krishna lines up his instructions. So in the 9th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna mentions that if one offers me with love and devotion a leaf, a flower, fruit, or water, I will accept it. So Krishna is mentioning the simplicity of bhakti and what it means to offer something to him, that he's not looking for anything that you don't have inherently within you. He's looking for your devotion, that nothing gets in the way of you offering your heart to Krishna. And Krishna's saying, that's all that I want. I just want your heart. And he's saying then in the next verse, whatever you do, whatever you eat, whatever you offer or give away, whatever austerities you perform, do that, O son of Kunti, as an offering to me. So don't think it has to be anything specific even. And you just take whatever you have and offer it back to me in a mood of loving service. And you'll start to recalibrate the consciousness that things belong to Krishna, that my life is meant to be in service to Krishna. Start flexing that muscle of devotional service. And in this way, you'll become free from bondage, and you'll be liberated, and you'll come to me. That is what it means to be my devotee. And then Krishna says that he loves everybody equally, but he specifically carries those devotees close in his heart. Why? Because they've given their heart to him. So Krishna defines what it means to practice bhakti. And he says that this life, whatever you do, is meant to recalibrate the consciousness so that you can start to think in that devotional mindset. And gradually, you'll start to make your way towards Krishna and develop the mood that my heart belongs to Krishna. And when you feel that your heart belongs to me, I carry you in my heart so closely and dearly. And that even if you make a mistake, a seeming mistake externally, it gets overlooked because you are sincerely making your way on that path. And then Krishna says, declare boldly that my devotee never perishes. Why is it that they never perish? Because Krishna takes personal responsibility to keep you close. Krishna takes personal responsibility to keep you close. And he mentions in the next chapter of Bhagavad Gita, in the 10th chapter, in the chapter Shloki very early on, he says, to those who are constantly devoted to serving me with love, I give the understanding by which they come to me. To show them special mercy, I, dwelling in their hearts, destroy with the shining lamp of knowledge the darkness born of ignorance. Nashyam yatma bhavasto. I situated with, I dispel tama, the darkness. Same word is used here. Dhanisha Shri Madham Tama. The ignorance of pride. And what is the ignorance of pride? That things belong to me. And so what is Krishna encouraging us to do in Bhagavad Gita? Give everything back. Patram pushvam phalam toyam yome bhaktya parachati. Whatever, give me a leaf, flower, wood of water. The next verse, whatever you have, whatever is in your possession, whatever you think is yours, make it as an offering to me. Why? Because that will systematically, intrinsically, foundationally, from the core, counteract this disease of pridefulness that things belong to me. Pride doesn't necessarily have to be the gross form of pride that we think of arrogance, that I'm so much better than everybody. We don't always carry that form of pride. Sometimes we do, but pride simply can just come in the form that things belong to me. Because what happens when I think that things belong to me? They mean that I am separate from Krishna. I have an identity separate from Krishna. Sure, Krishna owns most things. Krishna's in charge of pretty much everything, 99.99999%. But this little piece, this little tiny corner of the material world belongs to me. This is my career. This is my family. This is my wealth. This is my reputation. These are my followers. This is my kingdom. And Krishna is just smashing the idea that we own a kingdom separate from him. And so Krishna says, dwelling in their heart, destroy with a shining lamp of knowledge the darkness born of ignorance. Kind of sounds a little sweet. Oh, Krishna's in the heart, and there's ignorance, and this beautiful light shines. How does that manifest practically in the material world? In our lives, right here, in this pastime of Govardhan Hill. And Krishna crushing the pride of Indra. And so Krishna's mercy is being shown to us when he's gradually correcting this disease of ignorance, of pridefulness, that I exist separate from Krishna in any way, shape, or form, that anything in my life exists separate from Krishna. And how can I get back on track to want to offer everything I have in Krishna? Something's being taken away, it was never mine to begin with. Something's given back, let me think about how I can offer this in service of Krishna. Some other devotee seems to be successful and doing well in their spiritual life. Amazing, wonderful. I hope they offer unlimited service to my beloved Lord Shri Krishna. Don't need to become envious, don't need to become jealous, I could become inspired, I could become motivated to take after the example of other great souls. But at the end of the day, ultimately, if my goal is to serve Krishna and somebody else is serving Krishna very nicely, that's the example of Srimati Radharani. She's just trying to engage everyone in Krishna's service. She's trying to engage you in Krishna's service. She's trying to engage me in Krishna's service. Krishna doesn't need anything from us. Krishna doesn't need my khichdi. Krishna doesn't need my veggie burger that I made for dinner. Let me offer it to Krishna just because I'm supposed to offer everything to Krishna. Krishna has Nanda and Yashoda and the gopis and Radharani. and Sridham and Subal, offering him the most amazing foodstuffs and games and love. But Srimati Radharani so kindly wants to there's just not enough love to be offered to Sri Krishna. And so she's extending her mercy into this world, saying, please, won't you offer your love to Radharaman, to Shyam-Sundar, to Govinda, to Murlidhar. And so she's standing on the altar in Manhattan with her hand, giving her blessings. Why? Because she's looking to engage as many people in service as possible. Because her goal isn't that somehow she can be enjoyed by Krishna more than anybody, but her goal is that she can engage in many people in the service of Krishna for his enjoyment. And so we meditate on the mood of Srimati Radharani by thinking, I want everybody to succeed in spiritual life. And when we meditate on that mood, I want everybody around me to succeed in spiritual life, we invite Radharani's blessing, because she becomes so grateful, because that's her mood and that's her mission. And she employs her beloved Sri Krishna to destroy all the misconceptions in your heart that prevent you from being happy to see other devotees successful, that prevent you from being freed from anxiety when things of this world are taken from you, because you realize it was never mine to begin with, and Krishna is my only shelter in the first place. Ma prananatas tu sevanapraha. So that is the story of Govardhan Hill. That is the story of Krishna's mercy in our life. That is the story of the residents of Vrindavan and their example of pure devotional service. And that is the path that each of us are walking on. That is the gift that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has given us, and Srila Prabhupada has come to give us. And it is the gift we have to offer each other as we support and walk each other home and remind each other of the amazing blessing we have to never forget Krishna. And to be patient and compassionate and forgiving towards ourselves as we stumble along the way. Krishna knew that you were going to stumble, which is why he wrote in the Bhagavad Gita, Api chat sudaracharo, that even if you make a big blunder, it doesn't disqualify you ever from continuously throwing yourself at Krishna's lotus feet. Because the eradication, I got that word right, of the blockages of bhakti are ultimately removed by Krishna himself. We're just trying to inspire Krishna to lift the mountain of our pride off of our heart so that we can give ourselves to him. Okay, it's 8 o'clock. I already went all the way up to the end. Sorry. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much. Thank you. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srila Bhagavatam ki jai. I don't know if we have time or space for questions or reflections, or if the darshan is coming up. Yeah. Hare Krishna.
If you're speaking Ananda Bihari, you're muted.
And that was the last time we ever saw Ananda Bihari. Hare Krishna.
Well, Hare Krishna, if it's okay, I'd like to just do a quick share.
Please.
Gauranga Prabhu. We had actually Urban Devi this past Sunday, and we had Danya Rico or Danya Devidasi come and speak. And she spoke about self-care and the sacred feminine. And it reminds me of a little bit of what you're speaking, because she spoke about Radharani and our relationship with Radha, and how in the Maha Mantra, that Hare is like that invocation to Radha and calling out to her almost like a little baby does saying like, Mom, like we're calling out to her, like pleading for her to please, intercede in our behalf and getting us closer to Krishna, and so that we can serve. And she shared that, and I thought that was so powerful, and it made me think of what you just shared as well, of just like that calling out to Radha as our divine mother, the ultimate of, like as you said, like she's the one that pleases Krishna the most, and the ways that she does that is by wanting us to please Krishna the most. But that Hare, like I never had anybody explain that before, of like, Mom, like she said, it's different than like when you're like, Mom, it's like, Mom. So that she said, if we can chant our japa, or when we're doing kirtan or anything, and when we're singing the Mahamantra, and think of that Hare that way, that it can change our hearts. So Hare Krishna, thank you.
Thank you so much, Andrea. Grateful. Beautiful reflection. Danya is one of my heroes. Danya Gaurangi. Her full name is Danya Gaurangi Devi Dasi. Yeah.
Dayal Gauranga Prabhu's classes are always very hopeful. He said today that if you call out to Krishna, he'll reciprocate. That's so nice. Dayal Gauranga Prabhu, thank you. You're the ultimate hope giver in our Srimad Bhagavatam class rooster. If I
Hare
lose,
Krishna.
I'll schedule you to give class. When I lose hope next time. Thank you, Dayal Gauranga Prabhu. Thanks everyone for participating, smiling. Jeffrey Eckler, Andrea, Scarlett, Dominica, Bhima Prabhu. Where is your bearded smile, Bhima Prabhu? Venetia and Whiskey Das. Hare Krishna. Yeah, there he is. Bhima. Dana Kali Prabhu, Suzanne, Jamuna Jaya, Yogeshwari. Achyuta Gopi, William Prabhu. Yeah, Achyuta Gopi Prabhu told me yesterday that there's a passage in the Shastra, there's a verse somewhere in the Puranas where if you pronounce the names of a Vaishnava, Vaishnavas and Vaishnavis, it's like a yagya. It's beneficial to chant and pronounce the names of the devotees. So here I am singing your names: Yogeshwari, Amrita Kishori Didi, Bruce Prabhu, Hemangi, Sri Rupa Didi, Dana Krishna's Radharani, Pink Yogi of Holland, Narayani Devidasi, Susan, Sharmila, our end listers, Prema Vinodini Didi, Sundaranandaji, Domi, Bhakti Devi, and Bhakti Bentley, Preeti Chaturvedi, and Papi C. Hare Krishna, thank you very much. I'd like to request your blessings. I'm getting my second initiation today from His Holiness Satchidananda Swami at 10 o'clock. Please pray for me. I don't deserve it.
Congratulations. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. I got a letter
Jai.
from approving me and recommending me for this step. Thank you, Dayal Gauranga Prabhu. Okay. All right. Thank you for turning your cameras on. That's the
now
most.
Ananda Bihari has a leash that his wife can grab onto if he tries to leave the house.
Yes. No more nonsense. Yeah, that's it. Okay.
The Brahmin string to wrap around your neck.
That's right. That's right. I'm a sold out dog. I'm sold out to Krishna and my wife. Okay. Hare Krishna, Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Dayal Gauranga Prabhu Ki Jai. Thank you for your blessing. And see you